I was so. For me, you are just born at one time, at one day. You're born.
Okay.
You are like thrown into the world. So you have to orient yourself, and this is where we start to grasp, for example, meaning or worth. So we have to, or in what direction are we going with this?
Yeah.
So
How did you buy this pair of glass compared to all the others that was on the shop? How did you decide? Everything, there is no real meaning. You make
Yes.
meaning. But how did you decide this one?
exactly those glasses.
No, no.
So
How did you decide this?
This.
What was it
Well,
that made you choose this one?
I didn't buy these. Those are from my dad.
Okay. Did you buy anything?
Anything? Yes. For example, a movie.
Okay. Why would you choose a particular movie?
Because the contents of the movie interest me.
There you go. So you make decision based on
Based
what
on
interests you.
yes,
Okay.
what interests.
Right. What happens when we die?
So, from we can.
What do you think?
Yeah. From people that live, as someone who lives, why should I cannot possibly know what comes in, for example, in afterlife. I myself don't just think we die and that's it. So, but I think I want to stay neutral at all times. That's kind of what I think. How
So when you die,
When we
what's going
die.
to happen? When you die, particularly,
when I
yeah,
die,
yeah. What happens
I
to you?
won't feel anything. I won't have any experience anymore.
That will
It's
be
the
it.
End.
That will be it, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
End of
How do you know that?
by someone. Wait, someone called me.
You answer it, answer it.
Ja. Ich rede gerade in den Nähe von
No problem. How do you know what happens? How are you certain?
I didn't die. That is why
Yeah.
I cannot
when
know.
but people die in front of us.
Yes.
So when you die, whatever happens to you, how are you certain about it?
Well, certain about death or
No, certain about what's going to happen after.
after that.
Yeah.
Well, we can't.
But you said, when I die, that will be it. You were certain.
Because when I know, what do you want? For me, it's like, okay, do you believe in a soul or a spirit or anything like that? Because
It's irrelevant what I believe.
Yeah.
What you believe, the reason I ask you is this. When you believe in existentialism, think about it. It's not us meaning, that tree can still be there whether I like it or not.
Yes.
Whether I feel like it or not. It's independent of me.
yes,
So I don't have to make a meaning of this universe.
Yes.
It's just there even if I wasn't there.
yes.
Yeah. So the question is, this universe, has it always been there or did it have a beginning? If it had a beginning, what brought it into this beginning? Your philosophy is not like Buddhism in which you only care about three things. There's suffering in this world, and the reason of this suffering is people's desires, and the way to alleviate this suffering is to get rid of these desires. And then you have nirvana, moksha, that's it. But that doesn't answer the existential question, which is, this world, has it always been there, or did it have a beginning?
So I myself am quite scientific. I love science.
Good.
And
Science says the world had a beginning.
or even that before. So if the universe expands and it at one point started in one singular point,
Yeah.
well, then time started with the Big Bang.
How can time start? Do you mind explaining that?
So
So how can you have a change?
okay, you know relativity. The Albert Einstein's
Yeah.
theory of relativity. So, if we believe that one time everything condensed into a single point, then the mass of that point would be infinite.
Okay, that's
And
mass. What
we
about time? What about time? Is there time there?
So, time does pass slower.
Was time there?
The time does not move on at that point.
But is time present there at that
Does
time?
it exist?
Was time in existence?
Time always exists.
Right. So, when we have talking about the singularity, has it always been a singularity, or at one point there was no singularity?
So, at one point, we had the Big Bang and everything started
No.
going.
Was there a before, in inverted quotes? Was there? Because when you talk about time, was there a before?
This we cannot answer right now.
We can. Because the moment you say a change happened, what initiated this change?
What did it change from?
What initiated this change? Something else other than itself.
Well, you could believe that the universe is like a sine wave. So it expands and then contracts, expands and contracts, and then it would go on infinitely, universe
So,
after universe.
so it was always like that, infinite time.
We cannot look back, but maybe.
What are the options? It was always there, the infinite always existed,
Could have been
or
always.
it wasn't.
Or it wasn't, yes.
Okay, so let's deal with this. If it was always there, the properties of the universe, the laws of the universe, how are the laws acted in reality? How did they manifest in real actions? How did an abstract concept like the laws manifest in concrete reality? Because the laws...
Because of my point. Like guys, I can barely hear you guys.
Okay, can you go inside? Yeah, yeah.
I'm not that loud.
And then you can talk, inshallah. Yeah, yeah. It's very... So I was saying,
Yes.
if the universe is always there, then the laws that is operational within the universe is there with the universe. How do abstract laws manifest in physical, concrete actions? Einstein's theory of relativity, for example, is just an equation that is describing. That equation cannot do anything. If I write this equation on a piece of paper, how does it then manifest into concrete actions in reality?
Well, the core of physics is that we just observe and we write laws that could depict something. So we cannot truly know the laws themselves. We try to approach...
Whatever law we know,
Yes.
laws don't have a mind.
Yes.
They don't have self-awareness. So laws cannot say, I want the attraction between two objects,
Yes.
because they cannot decide that. There's just an abstract law.
Yes.
Do you mind explaining this further, so we can understand why it's so important to understand this?
Yeah. So we know that the world is operating in a particular pattern, and from this pattern we try to understand the underlying links or connections, and we name these laws and principles, these connections or patterns. Now, but the problem is that, I mean, even if the concept of law is there, but it does not ensure you that these laws can create something out of its own will, own power, because our concept of law is like that. It cannot create itself, it cannot enforce itself, Otherwise, in practical life, or as far as the concept of law is concerned, we would see that some constitution is constituting or writing its own itself, and then it is enforcing itself on a country and running the world. That's not the case.
Yeah, we think of laws as something that we think we know for certain, that is absolute and just works well in its own way.
Yeah. So the fact is that there are laws in this world, reality. So coming back to the Buddhist ideology, that they do not they ask the question, why these laws of karma and rules of suffering, and how you get rid of this suffering. So there are specific rules, but they do not answer the question from where these rules or laws are coming.
Yes.
And so we have to ask, what does that mean? Even if we do not know from where laws are coming, but we can infer something, that what meaning should this be imparted or be ascribed in this aspect. Like when you are able to talk, you are able to see, you are able to hear. Then even if I do not know from where you are coming, when you were born, if I do not know, I do not need to know those details. Yet I can infer that you are intelligent, you are capable of talking, you are capable of hearing, seeing. So these attributes I can infer from the aspect what we are seeing or observing. Like if I put to this analogy or inference rule to the universe, then I see that laws are operating in this universe, things are happening, various events, and those events are connected, and these laws, when applied correctly, is creating meaningful creation like us, even your own consciousness, own feelings. Yeah, these are not result of any other thing. I mean, direct, guaranteed or enforcement of this law. Otherwise, you will not see, you will not hire, photon will not work, sound will not work, I mean, sound wave not will work. So now the question is whether you bring infinite universe, cyclic universe, general relativity, time, this will not solve the problem. I mean, it will not be against your inference that these laws are not creating themselves, not enforcing themselves, and events are happening. So there are ability behind it for every change, even for enforcing the laws and devising the laws. So you need intelligence. Like even if you devise some abstract mathematics, you need intelligence behind it. You know, otherwise you cannot have a meaningful mathematics or meaningful thing to come out. So likewise, we can infer, even if we do not know. You earlier said that all is absurd, but how certain you are about that?
So I think, for me personally, I have the law for uncertainty. That's what science and everything is about. That we, as a species, try to make meaning for ourselves. So, for example, science, that we infer that there might be something that we cannot really answer in the end, like those laws. Who is making laws, for example?
So you are suggesting that we ask questions.
Oh no, we always search, and maybe we can find answers, but well,
Yeah.
our
So
future.
So the question is that when we ask questions, I mean, is it wrong to ask questions, or it is wrong to expect any answer?
So it's not
If
wrong.
our questions are valid,
Yeah, we ask questions, but we might not get an answer.
but how are sure that we might not get? But first we need to try. I mean, otherwise there will be no improvement of human civilization. I mean, if the first human would say that okay, I will not get any answer, so I will not ask any question how things are happening, how things are connected, then nothing will come. This camera, we ask, I mean, nothing will happen. I mean, this modern civilization would not come. So now,
For me, there's one other thing, so that people are driven by the fear of death. That everything. we
is that
do-
fear wrong or
What?
unjustified? Is that fear wrong?
No, it's justified
Yeah.
because we fear that everything fades, everything. So we live in a tiny moment in what we can observe. For example, we have history, we have the past. But if we look at the past, we could learn for now. But the past doesn't tell us anything about the future. We cannot look into the future. We cannot look at what is happening.
The reason is fear is because it's the only thing that's certain.
Yes.
Everything else, we don't know.
Yeah, likewise, if the walking, I mean the traffic rules. I mean, if someone says that, okay, I will not obey the traffic rules because people abide by those out of fear of punishment or fear of death, is that position justified or sensible?
No.
So,
If you look,
yeah. So there's sensible. I mean, fear that we have been born. I mean, in this world, and we have to die. So I mean, this fear should be taken care of. I mean, you should not avoid this fear. I mean, you should give proper meaning to this fear. I mean, this driving should be, I mean, taken care of. Like if you get hungry and you are searching for food. Now, if you convince, I mean, tell yourself, okay, this fear is a natural, this hunger is a biological construct, so I should not take, give any heed. I mean, so that will not be a sensible, I mean, thinking process. So even this philosophy of, that's why I was asking. So you have reached a conclusion that world is absurd. There is no meaning. That to be certain of this conclusion, I mean, you should be certain about at least absurdity. That yeah. There is a thing called absurdity.
That's the funny thing. So that's the funny thing about Camus and existentialism in general, because it ended with the construction of DNA. So when we saw that we ourselves have a code that kind of is predictable, and that the human is made of biomechanical functions, that people started to drop the belief of existentialism in general.
Yeah. So I'm saying that if you devise a conclusion or a philosophy which is not coherent, even consistent, I mean, not leading to human civilization or knowledge, I mean, what is the purpose of that? I mean, terming that branch of knowledge as philosophy. I mean, that's not philosophy. It's like equivalent to saying that, okay, I do not know, so I cannot know. So asking question is absurd or irrelevant or nothing worthy of taking, I mean, pursuing it. So do you see that this idea that world is absurd, it is a, I mean, unjustified claim or conclusion?
Yes.
In terms of, I mean, so it is
metaphysics.
So it's metaphysics, but metaphysics has some criteria or rule. I mean, even that coherence, the rule of coherence or consistency is out of window. So even you cannot say that this is a philosophy. Like it is saying that okay, knowledge is absurd. So when knowledge is absurd, why are you pursuing this philosophy? I mean, why are you saying that other philosophies are wrong? This is the correct philosophy. Humans are searching for meaning. This approach is wrong. So there is nothing wrong, nothing right.
Yeah, you know? There is nothing.
So
taking this point about being the world is absurd, that means gaining knowledge is absurd.
So no,
isn't it?
I have to make one statement. So for me, in general, existentialism was the first thing I thought about, because I wrote a paper in school, and I think what I love most is, I think it was Socrates who said, "I know that I don't know." So he knows that he does not know anything. For example.
That is correct, as long as it is based on justice. I mean, justice. I mean, when I see that I do not know, so if it's just to say that I do not know, it's correct statement, just justified statement. But when I say I know, but I yet say that I do not know, that's lie. I mean, pure lie. So that cannot be a true knowledge. That cannot lead to this civilization or sensible human society. And we cannot.
Because when you know what you don't know, that's an assurance, an encouragement that you can know.
That you can know something.
Because if you think you know it all, then you're not going to learn anything. So the first step is knowing your limitations, and the knowledge that you don't know, that opens up avenue to explore and understand and know more. Now, if this is the case, as we learn about our world, we see our world is rational. Our whole science is based on the assumption that the world is rational, that there is a cause and effect, that it doesn't, like the effect doesn't come before the cause. Okay, the cause is first, producing the effect. There's a rational universe. So once we know all of this, that means we can understand the world, and because of our understanding the world, we can make use of it. And that's why, like, you know, the example I gave you, glasses and this, so we have understood a lot of our world, and that's why we can make products based on the laws operating within this world. So now comes in, if our world is operating in a meaningful way, which is not itself self-aware and self-conscious, or something that is aware of itself with an intention and will, then something is governing it. Either you give consciousness to this universe, or something that made this universe, which has to be conscious.
Yeah.
So the universe itself doesn't show that it is something conscious itself. The universe is, for us, in fact, following certain laws. Okay? It's already a program rather than a programmer.
Yeah, it was given.
Yes. So we can meaningfully ask, who or what is the programmer or designer of this universe? And this is where Islam comes in and gives us the concrete, absolute understanding that this universe that you see is a creation. Creation reflects the creator and the nature of the creator. There's order in this universe, there's precision in the universe, there's harmony in the universe, there's complexity in the universe, and yet it operates under one harmonious rule. It's not like people think it's all chaotic. It's not like that. Otherwise, now the sun would have, caught our earth and engulfed it all together, would have burned, destroyed, or the moon.
As we like to see that everything has, there is, I think, when we have coincidence and we have what we perceive that it's made like that. But going aside, my chemistry teacher once said that, well, as long as we don't know, we can believe in that there might be a creator.
No, that's not how as Muslims we operate.
Yes.
We observe the universe and we make inferences out of it, just like science would do. And our inference will be such that you cannot have this setup unless there's a programmer and a designer. Because the universe itself is not its programmer. So there is a mind behind this universe, as some people say, okay? Well, we don't use the word mind for God, but we say there is a creator, originator, who is controller of this universe. And this follows from observing the universe. In fact, the Quran, a communication from our creator to us, the creation, reminds us, observe, look around, see, travel, and see how this is all. So God, for example, the creator says, look at the camel. You know, I think what's so wrong with the camel? If you look at the camel, it's appropriate to call a ship in the desert. Why? The camel is a magnificent animal, but if you think about the way it's engineered, you would say it's impossible for it just to evolve like that, because it's specifically designed to live in a very tough environment in a desert, with all this windstorm and sunstorm and so on, without any water. It stores the water. Yeah?
It's not random.
So, but then why?
Think of this world.
Science is
So
working.
you like
yes.
science, don't
Yes.
If
But
there's
in general, if we think of evolution as something that is not completely random, because those two, it's, for example, survival of the fittest means that it's not quite right, of course, because not always the fittest survive, they can die too.
Yeah.
But there's like chance that if there's a species in an environment, that, for example, a camel survives, well, it can still die through another cause. So we have evolution and we have coincidence.
Think about the concept of evolution. Look,
Yes.
I mean, if you start eating stone,
We
is
cannot survive.
your progeny going to keep on surviving?
No.
Evolution is a concept really some people don't give that much thought. They think they know science, they have done PhDs and so on and so forth. It's really something, a very absurd concept, because there is no director or directing goal.
Yes.
Okay, you have species and you have all these natural forces. Now, how does your interaction with the natural forces make you become stronger for the next generation? Because imagine now you flap your arms. Are you going to grow wings in the next generation, or the next, maybe a million later, your progeny is going to grow wings?
No, because I will never fly. But
No. The whole idea is, evolution is,
Yes. I know that.
if you want to survive, you do something, So
need to adapt.
your body adapts, and your next generation passes on these advantageous things. So imagine now all human beings start flapping their arms. Now, do we expect human beings to grow wings? Because maybe flapping our arms will give us wings. Remember Lamarckism? That they thought the giraffe got its long neck because the leaves were all up on the tree, all the ones on the ground were eaten. But now we know it's an abandoned idea, because that's not how your genes change and adapt, and you become with a longer neck.
Genes are not.
Your genotype,
Yes.
and your phenotype is not going to be like this, because whatever you think you need and your genes going to change. If that was the case, as I said, we can start growing wings by flapping our arms.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Ali said that our will, I mean, we can reshape our reality. I mean, that idea is contested here, because our whims and desire cannot decide the genotype or phenotype. This
Yeah.
and so,
So what happens in your genes, you cannot just change your whims and desires and wishes, whatever you do, whatever food you eat, because there is something already like a boundary that you cannot go beyond. So you can start mating human beings from different human beings, you'll still be human beings. We started mating lions and tigers, and you get a liger, and then they're not viable, no producing offsprings. When they try to cross species and so on, they become sterile, it doesn't work. So you have donkeys and horses, and you've got, what are they called between donkey and horses? A mule, yeah. That's all you're going to get. So there's a species barrier.
Mules can't reproduce.
Yeah, there's a species barrier. That means it doesn't matter whatever genetic manipulation you try to do. We've been breeding dogs and cats for hundreds of years. Still a dog, still a cat. Yeah, still a dog, still a cat.
What about the previous species? So when we do fossils, they look at it, how do you justify that?
There are other species. God created so many different species.
And they just died out.
They died out for different reasons. You know, some even in our times, we made a lot of species died out. We ourselves made, right? Because we have not preserved the habitat. We destroyed the habitat, and they died out.
For example, dodos died because dogs were left on the islands.
How sad, isn't it? So many different species we could have preserved, but human
You
beings.
like science, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now look at this world. If hydrogen was 1% more, what would happen?
So we couldn't truly survive.
So how did that happen? How did it become so perfect that
Well, for example, when Earth started, there's one theory that, for example,
so you
water.
agree Earth did start, so there was a starting point.
Well, there were gases that accumulated and formed a star. So we know how stars form. Through gases, through gravity, they pull themselves together, and
Who's pulling us forward?
gravity.
So
And
what?
who created gravity?
What you are suggesting is this: we are one lucky bunch where everything was in the everything is in the right proportion, finely tuned for our survival. That's what it seems to be.
For me, it's like you have a smith. You have someone that swings the hammer every day on a sword. Okay, it's a creator too when you think about it, but let's just think about the craftsman. Someone that finishes that craft, someone that learns with year and year. And so evolution.
But evolution doesn't have a brain, doesn't have consciousness, doesn't have consciousness, and doesn't have what? Self-awareness. So it's a process. No, evolution itself, the process, the driving force that is involved in changing, it is not something that is conscious or self-aware.
Well,
so how does it drive any change?
you could say
It's like an
that
adjective. Like when you renovate a house, right? You use the word renovate to describe what's happening to the house. So when you look at evolution, you're just describing what's happening.
yes.
But evolution isn't happening by itself. There's a force happening to cause. So all we're doing, we're just
But
labeling.
forces have a direct.
It's just a label.
No,
It's not
forces
an
are not
actual
conscious.
thing.
Forces themselves are not conscious. They cannot direct. I mean, back to the same question.
Yeah, coming to the laws and this.
Laws. How do laws
Yeah, yeah.
enforce itself?
Yeah. So if you say that the law of gravity or general relativity, whatever you say, that how things get closer to each other due to their masses. I mean, the thing is that, so you say that laws are enforced. That means there are different.
No, they are not
strength-
enforced.
Okay.
For in science, you cannot say that a law is reality. A law is not reality. A scientific law is a description of what we observe. Yes.
Yeah,
That's
but that's part of reality, what you
Yeah.
observe.
But the thing is that you infer or observe those things in the reality. So that it describes the aspect of reality. So if it describes aspect of a aspect of reality, then it's the truth about reality.
So
No, maybe it's provisional in the sense that, okay, within this set of observation, I find this law. Yeah, in these conditions. So now, even if your law is getting changed over time, within your description or within your condition, it is the true statement of the observation. You know, so that's why. So law is so. How do you know that laws are not enforced? Suppose laws are not enforced. So what should happen?
human-made laws are not
No, humans discovered the laws. We've not made any
No,
laws.
we did not made it. We did not made it. We just observed. But it is
Yes.
operating. Like you have gone to visit a country, and you see some traffic rules. People are following those rules. You know.
We're talking of physical laws of the universe,
Yeah.
as opposed to human laws of regulation, laws of a society and so on, traffic laws, laws of crime and punishment. When you talk about the physical laws of the
Yes,
universe,
so-
that law we have discovered, we've learnt about that this is
Well,
operating.
but we haven't discovered reality.
As much as we have discovered, and that's why we are able to make use of it, right? We're able to use the laws of attraction, magnetism, electromagnetism, electricity and so on.
Because they are very accurate, but they are not perfect.
Yeah, so
Every time science works, the assumption that universe is running under a law or a principle is getting validified. I mean, every time, because when science works, it has some prediction, and when science works, it has in its mind or the mind of scientists the assumption that the universe is consistent, coherent. That is a type of law. I mean, consistency, law of consistency or law of coherence. It's a law. I mean, it's principle, like least action principle, like uncertainty principle. I mean, these are principles. I mean, if you go beyond laws, there are principles. From those principles, you get different laws under different circumstances. So that's why it's a reality. It is a real description. I mean, whenever we describe something, there are limitations to our description or the way of description, but we describe the reality. Yeah, and we infer from these descriptions, which, like when I say that you are seeing, you are hearing, that saying is a description, is a description. But from that, I can infer that you have the qualities of human or some intelligent robot or intelligent being. You are responding in a particular way, a particular pattern. So even if with this description, I can infer another description, which is correct. So even if we do not know the real truth, we can infer with the asymptotic, or you say that the peripheral truth, whatever we know,
Then why do people that believe in a creator think that they know the laws?
No,
the physical laws are operated, we say the creator has placed them.
it's inference.
Yeah, and we can see that the law themselves didn't just originate by themselves out of thin air.
yes.
So it's only rational to ask, all of these laws that are operating within our universe, is there a lawgiver? Is there a programmer? Or the law themselves are the programmer? Which makes more sense?
So, I think, for example, science and the laws what we describe with science has for example, my phone. It's completely based on the science. We have electric circuits and everything. We have optics, everything in a small device. That is something that boosts my quality of life. So if we go to a practical meaning, and I think if you believe in a creator and you yourself can find comfort in such an idea, then
It's not about comfort in an idea.
Okay.
Your phone, can it assemble by itself without any intelligence behind it?
it's assembled or it's planned by an engineer.
No, no. Can it be planned and assembled by itself without a conscious, intelligent being?
So we don't know what consciousness is. We still need
As much as we know,
Yes.
we are conscious. What that is
yes.
is a
And we
different
still
subject.
don't know.
As far as we know, we are self-aware. As far as we know, we have intelligence and knowledge, right? Based on that, we are able to assemble, plan, and put this together, and it has optics, it has a lot of things which captures video, audio, text, lots of these things. Now, without a conscious, intelligent being putting it together, from planning stage to assembling stage to the final product, can it by itself do it by itself?
Of course not.
Right. So this universe is much more complex and harmonious than this phone. How can you then say this universe doesn't need
Well,
an intelligence
it's so-
and conscious agents behind it?
but it's so complex that because we have so many little laws abiding, if you put it down, we in science we search for the God equation,
No, no.
something that
We're not talking about God now. This
No,
phone.
no, God
no,
equation. Wait, it's an equation
It's
to
not.
describe
It's not about
everything.
God equation. This phone, you and I know how intricate, complex, and harmonious, meaning they fit together, they operate together. One microchip, how it communicates to the other with the power source, right? And with all the peripheral things within it, it serves its function as it's programmed and designed.
Yes.
This piece of engineering, precision design, cannot be attributed to by itself. It cannot do that by itself. Yeah? Even though the law is operational, it cannot assemble pieces like that. Otherwise, you don't need anything. Just by itself, pieces will come together, plastic, silicon, different elements, and it makes this. But it doesn't happen. This assembly doesn't happen unless there's a conscious, willing agent with knowledge and ability assembles it together. This universe is much more complex and harmonious than this phone. And yet, some of us are still saying it just is. Just like the phone, it just is. Think about it. This is just the generalization, but it's far more advanced in terms of from the micro to the macro level, the laws that are operating and putting everything in assembly. Transformation that has happened from the earlier stages of singularity to the expansion. All of this transformation requires a transforming agent, someone with intention and volition or a will and the ability to do so. We say that is the maker of our universe. It only makes sense to infer. This is not a blind belief. This is a knowledge inference that we, based on our knowledge of the mechanics, the intricacy that's operational and assembly that's gone in, we make that choice. Like, for example,
So wait, but why haven't we found phones in space?
because phones doesn't make by themselves.
Yeah. So the world itself doesn't make.
The world cannot make by itself. That's my
Well-
point. The world needs a maker. The phone needs a maker. This phone, as complex it is, requires a maker. The world, more complex than the phone,
Well,
needs a maker.
Yeah.
But it's not on the same level.
More complex. Even more requires a maker. Even more requires
We
a
are
maker.
using our brain right now. I mean,
Yeah.
how complex is that?
Yeah, even more.
Parts we are
The maker is
currently
even
using.
more needed to explain our universe. Some people say the universe can explain itself, but we say no, because anything to transform itself, you need an intention, agency with intention to make a transformation. Yeah. If you want to assemble a car, someone has intended a program to the robots to assemble it. Without that intended program, these robots won't be able to assemble the car. Never. Because they will be just sitting there with their arms. Won't be able to. But when an intention, agency with intention says, I want this robot to do this, pick this element, put it there, rotate this around, then make a car. This is about intention. A transformation from all the elements of plastic and metal, then make into a chassis of a car, is done by intention and intelligence. This universe, without an intentional agent, would not be assembled like this. Impossible.
Well, for me, I think in science the beauty is that, well, those laws that we see help us to give an answer to what you describe. So
We already have given the answer. Science has given the answer that there is a agency which has
no, they
assembled.
they are-
Science is reluctant to admit, but they know it. That's why they keep changing the equation, because they know every time they say there is a creator. Every time they make an equation, there's a creator. They say, no, that cannot be right. This is called rejection, stubborn rejection of the true reality, because they don't want to believe that there's a creator of this universe. Every equation leads to a creator. They say that cannot be right. They change to different models. But ultimately, they know that this cannot be explained other than an intelligence agency designer. This design argument is not just simple argument like that. It's such a profound argument that it requires real, human mind to simply say, I don't accept it. Because the evidence is in front of us.
well,
Even if
belief and God has existed for a longer time than the scientific
But that's not
method.
belief. I'm not talking about belief. We're talking about inference. We're using the scientific terminologies, not belief. You can believe the moon is made of cheese.
Well,
That's your belief.
scientifically
No. That can be a belief, right? But I'm saying no. We can go to the moon and see whether it's cheese or not. And then we could say it's not made of cheese. Likewise, about this universe, I am not making a belief statement. We're making an inference statement based on observation, direct observation.
using the same criteria that science uses.
Direct observation and analysis of that observation, we infer that yes, this is why this is happening. There must be a designer.
We observe that science works, and it is successful in predicting future. Like, we use this weather prediction every time we go out of home. And your phone is working. That means the laws are, the scientists have this in mind that laws will work in future. Therefore, you will be able to use this phone. The customers or the clients will be able to use these phones for their purpose. So that thing is giving us direct evidence that yes, laws are consistently applied in this universe, and it is not that it's like random laws are creating themselves. Haphazardly everywhere. That we do not see. That's why Brother Mansur was earlier saying that we do not see that sun is going around in a zigzag path and jumping around. So this is not happening.
Well done. By what laws is your creator? So
The
your
creator-
Yeah.
So, and what laws does he follow?
Right,
Or does
good
he not
question.
has any
Yeah, yeah.
laws?
Good question. So now, once you realize that this universe requires a designer or a maker, this maker is not going to be like the universe. It will necessarily follow the universe. The maker will be unlike, because you will have the same problem. Oh, who made the maker?
Yeah,
Who made the maker?
Yeah.
If you keep on going like this, either it goes on forever, this question, maker was made by another maker and so on, or just give, for example, the maker was made by someone else, eventually has to stop somewhere. The first maker. If it was forever and forever, it does make no sense. I'll tell you why this infinite regress is not a sensible answer. To say, to give you an example, this ring, say, it's getting quite tight. I want to give it to you, right? This action needs to take place. It's an action. But if there are infinite number of people in front of me, like I have to give it to him first, he has to give it to the other gentleman, and there's always an infinite number of people between you and me, would it ever come to your hand? Infinite number of people. Would it? Never. Why? Because it will still be passing infinite hands. If there were infinite number of creators in the past, so that creator has to create this creator, who has to create this creator, who has to create this creator, and come to our creator, our universe will never come into existence.
Well, maybe we are our own creators.
No. We didn't create. This is why the Quran says, أم خلقوا من غير شيء أم هم الخالقون أم خلقوا السماوات والأرض بل لا يوقنون. This is what the Quran in Arabic, yeah? Were they created by nothingness? Were they created by nothingness, meaning this nothingness created? Or did they create themselves? Did they create the heavens and the earth? Nay, they have no certain belief. I didn't create myself. I wasn't created by nothingness, because nothingness cannot create anything. I did not create the stars, the planets, the galaxies. I didn't create any of these things. So I know that it wasn't me or even anyone else. So that's why I'm saying, if there were infinite number of creators, this creation would not come into existence. Just like this ring would not come to your hand. Our creation would not take place. The fact that our creation is here, taking place, that means the creator is not infinite. There has to be a creator in which there is no other creator beforehand.
Bound in time.
So what is that creator? The first creator and the characteristics of the creator will be someone who is absolute and self-sufficient.
Well, it cannot be someone or something. We cannot describe
No.
it. We cannot
Some
know.
agency which does transformation, has the ability, has the knowledge, and has will.
Well,
Without any of these three combinations, you can't have any transformation happening.
well, but
You are right that we cannot know fully this agency or creator, whatever you say, but still we can use our description or words, what we describe, what we use for our descriptions. For that agency, we can infer some attributes from
Yeah.
there.
So when we talk about transformation that we see around our universe wasn't as like this, say, 1,000,000 years ago. Transformation has happened. Change has happened. To make changes, you need to make changes with someone or something that has an intention and the ability to do so. If you sit there in front of your computer, your homework is never going to be typed up because you're not making the intention to make your homework. You can just sit there like your arm resting on your keyboard and you think, okay, I'll just sit there without making an intention to write a piece of my essay for my teacher, for my project. It will never happen. It will never produce itself unless you intend with your knowledge and your ability to type, because you have fingers where you can type, then it will be produced. So any transformation to happen in this universe, if there is no agency with a will means an ability to intend, to choose, what we call the capacity of volition. If there was not anything like that, an agency, then the transformation would not happen. It will just there as it is. But because the transformation happened, something intended it. And something that intended it also had the ability and the power and the knowledge to make that transformation. When you make an essay or type an essay, you had the ability to make it, type an essay. Very eloquent, meaningful, and it fits together and so on. You're not just simply doing that. That wouldn't be an essay. This transformation is very precise. Things that happen in our universe. Physical laws that we see today is because of this transformation that has happened by someone willing it to have that precise transformation. This is why we say to believe in a creator of our cosmos is something rational. Our rational mind knows that this is the case. But why people don't accept it in science is because this consequence is something they don't want to accept. Because that means you have to accept there's a creator, then what's the relationship with your creator? Or why am I created for? Do I have to do these things or not? Or do I have to be confined in a do's and don'ts? They don't want that. Because the concept of liberty, free will, like they want to do whatever they want to do. They want to be confined by anything. That's why they don't want to be subservient to some external creator power or something. They want to be their own. This is the...
I mean, they are subservient to their own desires. Without asking that from where this desire coming.
Yeah, to our laws maybe, but I'm saying ultimately they don't want to follow a creator because it's not just knowing there's a creator, there is some accountability and purpose. So if there's a creator, the creator has created for a reason. And what is that reason? Once you know the reason is I have to do this, don't do this, and I have a purpose in my life. After death, this is where I'm going. There's another life. They don't want to follow any of that because it's too much.
But if, for example, someone could prove that there is no creator,
It's difficult to do that.
Yes, it's difficult.
In fact, it's impossible to do that.
It's
Well,
that.
we
It's not
don't
difficult.
know.
No, it's not. We don't know. It's not. You see, the
is
concept
called
of our creator.
self-contradictory, I mean.
The concept of our creator is someone who's originator of this universe. So if there is no originator, there should be nothing. But why is there something? There should be absolutely nothing. No creator, nothing. The fact that there is something.
You can rule out that possibility that there is no creator by logical inferences, whatever inferences we have used. I have lots of argument here, sound arguments for that. I have been preparing other purposes, and I can show you that if you take the possibility there is no absolute being or absolute truth, it will directly lead to contradiction, self-contradiction. Yeah. So
Coincidence would be just the same. We even
Yes,
wait,
yes,
there might so you could also believe in coincidence, complete other coincidence, that just things happening after things. So we have a Big Bang. After that we have heat, then we have different a picture of okay, what is 1 second after the Big Bang? What is 10 years after the Big Bang? So we have heat, we have different spaces, we have a complex model that we cannot at our current moment calculate.
But it's not a coincidence, though. It's not just by chance.
yeah, so the
Well,
word
it's a law
coincidence,
and
the,
it's
the word
by
coincidence
science.
is in our description box. I mean the description toolbox. So you when you say that something is coincident and something is not coincident, you have a criteria. You know, the criteria. From where are you getting this criteria?
Let's give an example before you carry on. During the very beginning of the human development, from a cell, as the cell divides,
So brains.
as the cell starts dividing, you have a blastocyst, morula, and it divides. The human embryo divides. What it does is it produces this differentiated cell lines, different cells. Cells that will make your heart is different than the cell that will make your liver. It's different than the cell that will make your skin.
Yes.
Yep. What happens is as it divides and the embryo becomes bigger and bigger, what happens? The cells start migrating, traveling along to the place where it's going to be the heart. So how do the cells know that they need to go all the way and migrate there and hang around there to form the heart and eventually become a tissue?
So because in stem cells there's the DNA and it's the
Program.
code.
Yes,
Program. That's the point. Everything seems to be designed and programmed. This program cannot be attributed to coincidence and chance.
Then we can become creators ourselves by programming.
No.
You
can be a maker.
You can create.
You can be a
or
maker, creator of something,
inventor,
but you cannot be the maker of a cosmos and so on because it's beyond your ability. But there is definitely a maker who made us and the cosmos. And there's a program already built in within us and within the physical world. The program is there. We can see it ourselves. We can see it in the DNA and we can see in the physical laws operational. That's why we're saying it's only people who are stubborn, they are unwilling or unable to see the signs within our own self and within our horizon. But if you are someone who's sincere and someone who is looking for the truth, it's obvious. You will say these things cannot be attributed to chance and coincidence.
Well,
So likewise, you cannot go back to your childhood. It's not coincidence. I mean, it
You
is not
cannot
coincidence.
unfry an egg once it's fried. You cannot go back to your
well,
childhood.
that's causality.
No,
Yeah, so that's
this-
not coincidence.
There's a program and it's a one-directional. The arrow of time, yeah?
Well,
A
but
coincidence
time
means
changes.
coincidence means
Do you think you can go back to become a baby again?
No, but you can travel to the future. That is.
We are
science.
hoping to travel, but can you travel to the past?
like zigzag. I mean randomly. I mean coincidence. By coincidence, you are saying that there lack of
The past
connection.
is not.
Yeah,
no,
it's
we
just
cannot travel
no
to the
strict
past
connection.
because there are thermodynamics.
Yeah, so there are rules and regulations that will fix your direction of events. You know, that's why it is not coincidence. Because coincidence means that okay, other things, other possibilities.
coincidence-
will-
You can go in any direction.
I have one other thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
do you know quantum mechanics? So, for example, if you have a photon, What is some? So a quark. We don't really know what it is, but it was German.
Quark?
A quark, yeah.
Yeah.
It's quant.
Yeah, it's quark. It's called quark. Quark.
Proton.
Yeah.
Something that we don't know what it is, but we can say it's energy, whatever energy is. But if we try to observe it, we cannot, because if we observe it, we need to shoot a photon to it. So, and through the photon, energy is transferred to our quark, and then it moves. We cannot know where it is, or we cannot know where it's moving. So, for example, photons,
Now,
quarks in general.
you can straightly say your point because
Yes.
I exactly work in this domain. I mean,
Okay,
sorry.
perfect. So here, wait, what's in English? I only know it in German. Heisenberg's Unschärfe.
Heisenberg's uncertainty principle.
Yeah, uncertainty principle.
Yeah.
So for example, we cannot.
You have initially mentioned that because you said that if the universe was having infinite time amount of energy, then time gets slower. Because you said that was from general relativity, but it is from uncertainty. We can say that if you take energy fluctuation and this uncertainty in energy, uncertainty in time, and that has to be, I mean, connected to your some constant, Planck constant, and then if you increase the energy of amount of energy, then your time gets slower. So that's why your argument. So that
I just wanted to say.
yeah,
that
I want to correct you that, but I did not correct you. That inference you draw, you do is from Heisenberg uncertainty principle, but you said that is from general relativity. Okay, you carry on. So
So, where we go now?
So nothing in quantum world, it says that everything is coincidence. I can
Yes.
ensure there are correlations, you know, even if you cannot, I mean, classically understand those correlations, like what recently have been
quantum
discovered.
mechanics are chance, in general. Chances.
So it's not it's chance in the sense that in the classical sense. It's quantum chance in the sense that you do not know why it is happening. It is a barrier to your. I mean, the nature of reality is such is that it will not reveal to you fully. So that is the thing, quantum. But it is not that it is not following any rule or any principle. You know, even quantum world follows certain principle rules. I mean, quantum world does not violate basic conservation laws or symmetries. You know, so it is not like that quantum world. I mean, even if you go to the low energy quantum world, Schrodinger equation, I mean, non-relativistic case. In non-relativistic domain, you have Schrodinger equation. If you go to, I mean, relativistic domains, you have Klein-Gordon equation, field equations. Those are there. So now you need a Lagrangian, you know, Lagrangian, Hamiltonian, do you understand those things? So you need those Lagrangian to dictate your kinetic energy or the energy that emboldens you to transform or change, and then you need some potential energy that dictates an interaction from other particles, so how they will interact. So there are specific rules for those.
Yes.
You know, so it's not like chance.
It's not
or
random and chance that people
Yeah.
think about it. Okay, but I want to draw back now to our physical reality. When we look at, we as Muslims believe there's a creator who's communicating with us, and he sends us a communications what we call the Quran. You've heard of the Quran? Quran?
Yeah, of course.
The Quran is an interesting book from various perspectives. It actually challenges people to falsify it. Like if you don't believe it's from the creator, then these are the ways you can actually falsify it. You can prove it to be wrong. One of the ways it says, for example, if you think it's not from the creator, then make something like it. The Quran is a particular composition in Arabic language. It's not prose, it's not poetry, but it has its own linguistic genre, own style, stylistics. And says, bring something like it. A whole book, or 10 of the surahs or chapters, or one surah or one chapter. One chapter, one surah is like about 3 lines, 3 ayat. So, if it wasn't from our creator, we should be able to imitate it. You know, our language models, whether it's Copilot, ChatGPT, and all the different things, you can imitate Shakespeare, you can imitate lots of different poets and so on. But it cannot even, these language models, imitate the stylistics of the Quran. I actually tried that myself, helping out ChatGPT. Okay, these are the rules of how the Quran is. Try to imitate it. Okay, so why is it impossible for the last 1444 years or 45 years for people from all over the world, Muslims or otherwise, to bring some piece of literature as small as 3-line composition to make something like it? I mean, this is, goes beyond.
First, ChatGPT. So, for example, language.
Any language model.
Selves. But
Any human beings.
can you. Wait, first, language models aren't intelligent.
But they can imitate. If you give them whole of Shakespeare, yeah, this is Shakespeare's works.
Yeah, because
and
there
then
are
you
certain
say, and then
rules.
you say, using those rules of composition that Shakespeare has composed his works, produce something like his sonnet. It will do it. It will do it. Give the rules of the Quran composition, as much has objectively been assessed, and give it to ChatGPT. It cannot do it.
Well, then, why can't you say, or why can't you completely understand your creator if the creator communicates in
No, it's
your
not.
language?
It's not about complete understanding. What we're saying is, the Creator has given us falsification test
Then why?
to look. How are you going to say this is from the Creator? Communicate from our God. How would someone accept a book that is from God?
Yeah, well, answer.
You need evidence. You need to have some evidence for it. What the Quran does in terms of evidence, it provides two different kinds of evidence. One is a positive evidence to say these are the evidence why it's from God. At the same time, it provides you falsification tests like we do in science, that this is, if you do this, if you apply this, you can falsify it. And then you can be sure it's not from God. This is much easier to do, falsifications. For example, if you say, look, I claim to be the king of England, and this is how you can falsify me. I say, look, if I don't have a queen, I don't have a castle.
Just make a blood test and see
Yeah.
if your father was the king
Exactly.
of England.
So I can give you all this tests, and you can falsify me that you're an imposter. So the Quran provides this kind of falsification tests. Quran tells you, like, if it was a book not from God, then you would expect it to have many contradictions within it, inconsistencies and discrepancies. People have been trying for the last 1,400 years. Why are they not able to find a contradiction within the text of the Quran? Quran says things about the natural world. Like Quran says, God, the way He made this universe, that this universe and the earth was joined together as one piece, and there was a separation. And He made every living thing from water. In one particular passage, there's two information, one of astrophysics and one of biology. The common origin of the cosmos, that the earth was at one point part of everything in one piece, and then there was separation. I don't want to use the word Big Bang because I was projecting the word into it, but there was separation. The word uses ratak and fatak, that there was like this and there was separation. Every living thing is from water, and now we realize our living thing, we need water. Most of our body parts is water in our cytoplasm and so on. So the man who gave that information 1400 years ago, he lived in a desert. He didn't travel in the deepest of the dead volcano and see what the microorganisms are. He didn't have a microscope. He didn't go to all these asteroids and see if there's any living organisms there or anything there deep in the oceans. Underneath the bottom of the oceans, there are still living things, right? You can't even see them because there's no light, but you have to have submarines to go on the deepest of the oceans, and then there's still living fishes and so on and so forth. And yet, he makes these profound statements. He says, in the oceans, deep oceans, there are interoceanic waves.
Some materials for him.
Thank you. This is a gift for you from...
No, thank you. But from that point on,
You can read.
Translation of the Quran?
but I'm not interested.
Okay, that's okay, no problem. No, so when the Quran provides information like this, one needs to explain how did someone know this information?
So, well, from that point,
Yeah.
of course, I could read and try to. So, because I would need knowledge to now challenge your beliefs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I do not have that knowledge.
No, we are saying this is an introduction to you
Yes, of
to
course.
go and explore further and ask yourself, how is it possible for the Quran to talk about interoceanic waves when these are something that you cannot even see with the naked eye? You cannot just go without any diving gear and see them. It's not like an ordinary fisherman who goes and dives and see them. No, you can go out above this space and with your satellite you can actually see them. This is how they are visible, because the surface waves and then the in the middle of the oceans, interoceanic waves. They're called sea currents. Sometimes they go the opposite way from the other waves. He describes things of this nature that such that you don't expect people at that time, not even him, people all around the world at that time to have this kind of knowledge base, because knowledge was not available at that time of this nature. So when he talks about something about, say, he describes mountains in a way. Oh, mountains are like pegs. Much of it is underground. But if I were to ask you mountains, you will say mountain is an elevation of the ground. Ask anyone.
Well,
That's how they'll
but
describe.
it's also, you can also see such books as metaphors.
The Quran uses, to give you,
Common language,
the
but
Quran uses
precise.
the natural phenomena as a parable for something. For example, it says, look, the example of a disbeliever, someone who doesn't believe in God, is like them, who, when he puts his hand in an ocean or in the sea, there are layers of darkness, one above the other. There's oceans, there's the waves, toppable waves, and so on, and there are layers of darkness. And if he was to see his hand, he will be able to see it because it's total darkness. We know how people didn't know then that there's absolute darkness at the bottom of the ocean. The Quran says there are layers of darkness, meaning the light refracts and becomes darker, that meaning no light, eventually there's no light.
Well, but the Quran doesn't state that.
It does. That's the beauty of it.
But not the exact way.
No, the Quran says there are layers of darkness, one above the other. Yeah? And this is how it's
Well,
described.
but it doesn't say that it refracts light.
No, it doesn't say refract. But I'm talking about if you visualize it,
When
the
you
layers
are
of darknesses, and the darkness becomes darker and darker, and eventually that you cannot see anything.
Well, it can also be a metaphor for unknowing.
No, it's not. When you say metaphor, when the Quran describes natural phenomena, we find astonishing is that it is exactly in line with our understanding of science. To give you another example, the Quran says, all human beings, all people, God is putting forward a parable example, so listen to it very carefully. Those who associate partners with God, it's like this. Even if they were to come together to create a fly, they won't be able to do it. These people that people associate and say these are gods, and they want to worship them, they will help you and so on, saying even if they were to come together, they won't be able to create a fly. And not only that, if the fly were to snatch something away from them, they would not be able to retrieve it. Look how weak the seeker is and how weak what is sought. Now, God is saying, Ya ayyuhan nas, all people of humankind. A parable is given, so listen to it very carefully. Fastami'u lah. Listen to it very carefully. Okay, interesting. God is making everyone's attention. Using a fly, what's so special about the fly? Okay, do you know how a fly eats its food?
It dissolves it with its stomach acid.
Exactly. What it does is, it spits the stomach acid onto the food, and then it sucks it in with its proboscis. So, when it snatches the food, it's already digested, because the acid is already there. Can you retrieve it?
The spider does that too.
Yeah, but did we know this before? Because of our learning and understanding today, in the last 200 years or so,
But
we have come to
from
know
that-
this.
Well, let's finish it now.
Yeah.
So, from that point on, I cannot challenge you or what you say. You have a monopoly here. It stands right before me because
I'm
you
only giving you
read
information to
something.
check.
Yeah, we are.
I'm not asking you to accept anything. I'm just providing you certain clues and information for you to be interested, to check how is it possible. Look, don't take personally. I'm not asking you to accept and say, oh yes, now I accept Islam. No. This is not the intention. The intention is to generate interest within you, to explore further and check, and then ask yourself, how are these information coming from someone who could not have known
And I'm
this.
quite glad that you speak in such a manner and that you act in such a manner, and it's nice. Yes,
That's it.
it's not so it's a bit. It's not like you want to be a missionary or something. It's
Exchange of
it's
information
open,
for
we
your
exchange. Yes, we
own
can have an open
assessment.
talk.
Exactly,
Right.
for your own
Yes.
assessment.
And I think it's lovely that someone can believe or that someone can be inspired by a book, a word, something that's written.
Yeah.
Yes.
What all we're
Even
saying
the
is
modern science,
there is a
the modern-
basis for our belief. We have a foundation of a belief which is not blind faith, which is based on knowledge and accepting of that knowledge. Otherwise, everyone can believe in anything. Some people can believe Harry Potter is the book of God and can believe in it. Yeah? But we say no, the Creator gives us enough of evidence to accept the communication He sends for our guidance. And we can be sure that it's from the Creator because of the provision of the evidence that's given.
And I think we can never, so for myself, we need to always search for more evidence, for more that there may come.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So-
but there's a limit to our skepticism. We have to say, that's it, Once you go outside the earth, just
Yes.
one point, and I'll let you speak. Once you go outside the earth and go around it, you know it's no longer a triangle or a flat disk. It's as it is, right? Your skepticism of how, look what it says here, the earth is flat. Yeah? If these people went outside on a satellite and observed, they would know the earth is not flat. So this is where our skepticism ends and our knowledge becomes the reality and we accept it. That's what we're saying. When you explore the Quran, information it gives, and you assess it and you realize, okay, that's when, this is when you are no longer skeptic and say, I need to ask further questions. When we know the earth is not flat anymore, we're outside, we don't need to ask another question, is the earth still flat?
Yeah. We ask further questions on like how to launch satellite and
Yeah,
how.
but we don't ask the
how-
question again, the earth is still flat or not.
But why should the Creator only give only give this man or someone, only those folk, a book?
Interesting
Why shouldn't
question.
He give it everybody?
Interesting question. So our position is this, the Creator has created human beings, and throughout human history, every community had a spokesperson from God to tell them what they have to do, why they were created, and so on. So we call them warners, prophets, and messengers. In the past, people were distinct in their communities. Like if there's an ocean in the middle, they would not be able to travel that unless people then developed big boats and so on. They were very close communities wherever they lived. So the Creator gave information, guidance to each of these communities. As the world became smaller and smaller because of transportation and people traveling and so on and so forth, and you can see like one of the prophet may have mission to more than one nation and so on, right? So this has happened throughout human history. The difference between us as a Muslim is we are in a position where God, our Creator, has given us the final messenger for all people at all times. I could have been living, 3,000 years ago when there was another prophet and only for my community. Could have been the case. But now the reality is, in the succession of prophets and messengers and warners, there has come a final prophet and a final messenger. And this is the final book, the Quran, which is an open book for people to assess and verify, to live their life accordingly, to understand their reality. That's what it is. We can only share and people can then assess and verify it. So it has not been like this case where we are special, no. All human beings are special in the sight of God. And all human beings have been given the opportunity to receive guidance throughout human history. Those who, during their respective times, followed the guidance given, they're the successful ones. And those who didn't, they will be having their consequence, which is not going to be very nice and very good.
So I think, to kind of sum it up, I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, sure.
I think it's great if we humans, if everyone just believes that, yes, we are human beings, we are the same.
Yes.
And we can, for me then, we can believe in, okay, you can for me personally, I think it's great that you believe in what you believe in, and that you have passion for your belief. And for me, I think it's for you it's laws and everything. For me, it's belief or what. I think belief is so personal. It's
Believe with your logic.
Belief is a personal thing, absolutely.
It's a personal thing, and everyone takes it to his own journey of life. Goes through life, has his own belief. Maybe he grows, sometimes he falls down. We all have our own story, and I think that all the religions or anything, the beauty in that is that people can understand to respect each other, and I think that is the most central part that kind of brings people together.
Yes.
I think that's
Our Prophet ﷺ said, because he's commissioned by God to explain, that there is no difference between an Arab and a non-Arab, because he was an Arab, but he says there is no difference between an Arab and a non-Arab. There is no difference between a white and a black, or vice versa. The only difference between people is in your piety, in your righteousness, in your consciousness with God. That's the only difference. God says in the Quran, He created us in the different languages, in different colors, different nations and different tribes. Not that we despise with each other, but we recognize each other. So human beings, all, we are told, coming from one parent, Adam and Eve, we are all children. We are actually brothers and sisters from the same one parent. So how can you have racism? It's absolutely impossible. That's why in Islam, it eliminates racism from the roots. Say there is no distinction. We are all children of Adam. All we need to do, we may disagree based on our affiliation with religion or dogma or things like this, but ultimately we have to all account to God for what we believe and what we do, because He's the one who's going to judge us, not us judging. I can't judge you, you can't judge me, but in this world, because we have to live in a particular way, the judgment is done based on my conduct. I can't go and drive the way I want, because I'm going to create havoc and cause accidents. If I drive the wrong way, I'm going to create accidents, right? So I can't do that. So the government or the state or the body which has some legislation will stop me from doing that. So our freedom will be taken away because it's not good to have in this case. Just drive the way you like, any way you like. We have to maintain certain abidance with certain rules and regulations. But there's ultimately one more thing to do for us human beings. Try to live our life according to the laws of God, His rules and His regulations and His guidance.
for example, the Christians, the Catholics sing of God that He is loving. Why should someone that is loving and caring will He will not punish someone, something.
In our concept, God is just, merciful, compassionate, forgiving, so all elements. So He lets people go when they make mistakes. He says, okay, just say sorry and come back. Make things right. For example, if someone does a sin, is an act of disobedience to God, right? So if someone does a sin, what they have to do is recognize that they've done something wrong, make the intention not to do that again, okay, and ask God to forgive them for what they've done. So if I, for example, I hit this brother and say, I'm sorry, and I keep doing that, I'm sorry, it's meaningless because I am not stopping my action. So I have to stop from committing that evil action, sincerely ask Him to forgive me, and try to do good things for him. Okay, let me take you to some good restaurant and so on. This is how, when you do something in the sight of God wrong, this is what you have to do. And He will forgive us because He knows our shortcomings. But despite that, He's told us there are certain things that you cannot do, right? Because that will destabilize the society. They will take you outside the mercy of God and put you into hellfire. For example, in this world, if you start killing people, raping people, committing highway robbery and so on, it will destabilize the society. No one will have security and comfort how they live their life. Like no one will be able to hear. Imagine someone trying to walk here, they will be so afraid. They will say, there's a police car, so I'm walk. No, you don't need that. So that's why people need to be secure and feeling safe. But if there are no laws to make sure this happens, then the society will be in chaos. Someone who has power money and authority, they will just come in and start shooting all around and nothing happens. That cannot happen. So God legislates for our own sake certain laws to make our life livable.
Yeah, and in that way, I think that, for example, if we go back to evolution, if we create laws, we can survive. Those that abide by the laws are those who survive. So
why do we sometimes give our own life to save others? Evolution cannot explain it.
About survival.
Self-sacrifice, ants do that too. Ants do that too. They make a bridge, they will die in making this bridge connect.
Self-sacrifice is interpersonal.
But how is it saving, how is it better for that individual? They're taking their own life.
So it's again a program.
So in that certain moment, if you have a son and there's a car for it or something that the father can stop, well, he wants to protect his son, and maybe in that moment he does not think of death, he thinks of the death of his son, not of his own.
So it's not the survival of the fittest then. It's a higher purpose of saving someone else.
Or goodwill.
Think about it, if you're saving someone else, then it's not about evolution trying to make your own species survive more, you survive more. It's nothing to do with you anymore, because the ants, the way they give up their life making bridges in water, they die by the numbers, but they sacrifice their own life. Human beings do that likewise, saving the whole community from invaders. They will go and fight and sacrifice their own lives. People do. So this self-sacrifice goes against the very concept of evolution. Selfish gene doesn't answer this question by Richard Dawkins and others. They think, oh, it's a whole selfing of the whole of genes. No, no, no. You have to account for your own self. How does it help me? It doesn't, because you're dying. Anyway, you're hungry. We have to go. It's a pleasure speaking to you. What was your name?
Jan.
Yan. I'm Mansur. This is Sarwar. You know, think about Islam, what we said, because we just gave you information from the Islamic perspective. And we reflect and see how things are. Okay?
I think it's great hearing hearing a side that you don't really hear often.
Yeah.
It's
That's the purpose of Speaker's Corner, so we can give that information available to elsewhere and people can see. So I'm really grateful to you to have a conversation with.
Thank you. And that people that think differently or think in completely different manners can meet, communicate to each other. It's lovely.
Absolutely. Pleasure speaking to you. Take care. Okay? Get some food. Okay.